Attraction rarely disappears in a single day. It does not collapse instantly because of one heated argument or a momentary mistake. In reality, desire fades gradually, so quietly that at first you can barely notice it. It begins with small symptoms. Accidental touches happen a little less often. The excitement in daily conversations dims a little. The passionate gazes no longer linger on your face as long as they used to. Before you can understand what is happening, you realize you are in a relationship where everything still exists. The care is there, the loyalty is there, but the desire has gone completely cold. At Femina Mind, we view attraction as more than just a random emotion. It is a chemical reaction between energy, behavior, and status. There are 3 very common things that many men do, not because they are weak or unkind, but on the contrary, because they believe it is the way to protect and nurture love. Ironically, those very efforts are what erode respect and cause the flame of desire to flicker out. Before diving into the details, we must perform an important reframe on the nature of bonding. Desire is fundamentally different from love or comfort. A woman can love you deeply, care for you devotedly, and commit to staying by your side for life. But she can still cease to feel desire for you. Comfort creates safety, but excessive safety is sometimes the enemy of allure. The issue here is not that you are not good enough. The issue is that the energy structure, the dynamic between the two of you has shifted from 2 independent, attractive individuals to a dependent and predictable structure. If you feel you are giving your all but receiving only cold indifference in return, it is time to look directly at the behaviors that are silently pushing her away. In the early stages of a relationship, what created your attraction? It was a private life full of ambition, clear goals, and an independent personality. But as the bond deepens, many men unknowingly step into a psychological trap. Instead of leading their own lives, they begin to orbit the woman's life. At Femina Mind, we analyze this behavior as a shift from being a leader to becoming an approval seeker. 1. The trap of approval seeking. This is the behavior that kills desire the fastest because it directly attacks respect, the foundation of desire. The behavior. You start asking for her opinion on every decision, even the smallest ones. You fear her being upset to the point of abandoning your own healthy habits. You constantly adjust your views, your schedule, and even your personal interests just to keep her satisfied. The psychology. When you shift into an approval-seeking state, the dynamic of the relationship changes completely. You are no longer the steady man she once admired. You become someone who needs permission to feel right. The common mistake. Many men think, the more I care about her feelings and follow her wishes, the more she will love and want me. But the truth is, desire requires a degree of independence. When you lose yourself to serve her emotions, you also lose the edge that attracted her in the first place. If you have ever found yourself changing too much or losing your unique identity just to keep the peace, leave a comment saying balance. 2. Being overly available and predictable. Kindness and devotion are valuable, but when they become excessive and lack boundaries, they eliminate all positive tension. The behavior. You always reply to messages instantly, even when you are in an important meeting or doing critical work. You are always there whenever she calls, putting aside all personal plans. You no longer have a separate rhythm of life. You are entirely dependent on her schedule. The psychology. Desire needs 2 elements side by side, security, but accompanied by unpredictability. When you are 100% available, the relationship shifts from romantic energy to comfort energy. The consequence: excessive comfort creates the feeling of a family member rather than a lover. When everything becomes too certain, The brain no longer feels the need to exert effort to connect or conquer. Desire needs space to breathe, and your constant availability is accidentally suffocating that space. The right action from Femina Mind: maintain your own schedule. Do not always be the first one available just to prove your love. Keep a balance between connecting deeply and preserving the independence of a man who has clear life goals. Do you realize that the things you are doing because you are thinking of her are actually depriving her of the opportunity to desire you? Right now, you might not feel rejected, just puzzled. Nothing obvious has broken, no major conflict, no clear turning point. Yet something in the atmosphere feels slightly different than before, like a spark that hasn't disappeared, but no longer burns the same way. That kind of shift is easy to question, because desire rarely fades with a dramatic announcement. Most of the time, every moment on its own looks harmless. A small habit here, a subtle change there. Individually, none of it seems powerful enough to affect attraction. But attraction doesn't disappear because of one action. It changes through rhythm, like music that slowly loses tempo. The melody is still there, but the energy that carried it forward begins to flatten. Or like a current that weakens gradually. The water still moves, just not with the same pull it once had. The issue isn't a single behavior. It's the direction the dynamic begins drifting over time. What matters here isn't whether you still care. It's whether you've started adjusting yourself more and more just to keep the connection feeling alive. When someone finds themselves compensating, initiating constantly, or softening their presence to avoid distance, that quiet recalibration becomes information. And from this point forward, the patterns become more revealing. Not louder, not more dramatic, just clearer in the way they reshape attraction itself. If you've ever felt desire change without knowing exactly when it began, stay with me. 3. Pleasing instead of challenging. This is the thin line between a kind man and a bland man. The behavior. You avoid every argument even when she is wrong. You don't speak up when something bothers you. You agree to her every request just to get it over with, to keep the peace. You yield on everything, from what to eat and where to go to larger decisions, just to make her happy. The psychology. Initially, this may seem like a sign of maturity and tolerance, but if it becomes a long-term habit, it creates a relationship structure lacking polarity. The Femina Mind truth. Women are not attracted to a shadow that always says yes. They respect and desire a man who has his own opinions, clear boundaries, and the ability to say no when necessary. When you become a people pleaser, you unintentionally lose your identity. You are no longer an individual for her to discover and conquer. You become a dependency of her emotions. The common mistake: confusing kindness with self-abandonment. At Femina Mind, we want you to clearly distinguish between these two concepts: kindness, caring for, nurturing, and understanding her from a position of strength. This creates connection. Self-abandonment, betraying your own values, emotions, and principles in exchange for her satisfaction. This completely destroys attraction. Desire needs a bit of friction. When you are too smooth, too easygoing, that friction disappears, and the flame dies with it. A woman needs to know that you are brave enough to protect your own boundaries, because if you cannot protect yourself from her, she will not believe you can protect her from the world. If you believe that a clear boundary makes a relationship healthier and more attractive, hit like. The hardest truth. Desire does not die because you don't love her enough. It dies when the relationship structure turns you into someone who is too predictable, too afraid of losing her, and too willing to sacrifice your personal identity for a fake peace. The greatest paradox that Femina Mind wants you to remember: the very things you think will keep her closer, submission, 24/7 availability, unconditional pleasing, are exactly what are pushing her desire the furthest away. Women do not lose attraction because you are a good man. They lose attraction when you stop being yourself just to keep them around. We have journeyed through the silent mistakes that possess immense destructive power over attraction. In this final part, Femina Mind wants to offer you a realistic perspective to change the situation rather than letting you sink into anxiety. The harsh truth: desire is not a gift of reciprocity. Many men still hold on to the mindset, if I give enough sacrifice, I will receive desire in return. But desire does not operate like a commercial transaction. It is an instinctual reaction. A woman's desire does not die because you lack kindness. It dies because you have accidentally eliminated the respect and space necessary for the flame to ignite. When you become too predictable, too submissive, and too afraid to lose, you are no longer her dream man. You have become a safety zone with no allure. And in the end, the point worth reflecting on is not whether those three behaviors kill attraction according to an absolute formula. Human beings are more complex than simple rules. The deeper issue lies here. When you begin to act in those ways, do you still maintain your steadiness and self-respect? Or are you gradually adjusting yourself just to hold on to a connection that is changing? Many believe that if they care more, sacrifice more, or explain more, the affection will return. But there are times when the harder you try to hold on, the more you lose the very thing that made you attractive in the first place: your autonomy and your own weight. When every action begins to stem from the fear of loss, attraction does not vanish in an instant. It fades over time. Stepping back in those moments is not indifference. Sometimes it is simply how you stop trading yourself to hold on to something that is already drifting away. Femina Mind does not exist to teach you how to manipulate emotions or reactivate attraction through tactics. Nor is it to turn love into a psychological math problem. Femina Mind is an observational mindset, helping you recognize when you are acting from confidence and when you are reacting from insecurity. It is a way to stay calm when feelings fluctuate. And it is the self-respect compass that reminds you that your value should not depend entirely on whether someone still feels desire for you. Perhaps the question worth pausing on for a few seconds is not, how do I make her want me again? Instead, it is, in the process of trying to maintain attraction, am I gradually losing the very thing that makes me who I am? If you want, you can share your experience in the comments section, not to seek validation, but simply to look back with honesty. And if Femina Mind helps you maintain that clarity and steadiness, you can stay and follow the channel, not to learn how to make someone desire you, but to ensure you never trade your self-respect to be desired.